Good evening, good evening, good evening, folks. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels. We are going back to that horrible world known as the JRC, but before we do the usual disclaimers, I am a little bit late this evening because I had another dentist appointment where finally I was told point blank that the issues with how inflammatory and irritated that my gums are has to be dealt with first because it's gotten to a state that even the type of laser treatment that we have at my main doc's office was going to make it worse before it got better, the best way to put it. So that means now I have amoxicillin that I'm taking 3 times a day. I've got another antibacterial wash, so now I have to take 2 of them. One in the morning, one at night. And then I've got this paste that I also have to massage in my favorite part of all, in spite of the fact that if I touch either of these 2 front teeth, like up towards the top of those teeth, with a toothbrush, it's like a spike of pain has been driven into me by a steel sharp pipe. I'm going to have to do that too. So, wish me luck. Prayers, thoughts, good vibes. Caesar, we who are about to die salute you. This is gonna suck. And it's gonna suck all the way till they're waiting at least second week of January before we can finally go ahead and look and see if we can get the root canals done. So, sorry about being late. We're going to go through the disclaimers here in a moment, but we are going to go over again the same paragraph in regards to Ellie's story that we went over last night, and the reason why is down towards the bottom of it. Something caught my eye earlier right as I was pulling up the chair. Because the JRC has the tendency to not only to paint the most bleak picture humanly possible, they also somehow seem to always paint like literally every single little thing as being fault of this so out of whack, out of control disability that the only thing that works is torture. It makes even less sense when you begin to read into it a little bit more. We're going to tear that apart here in a few seconds, which I feel like I'm in a very unique position to be able to do. A lot of this is in my wheelhouse. Some of this is in my mom's wheelhouse. Stuff that I've been around and just kind of caught. Just, going back and forth every day, visiting her, getting rides home. You all know the drill. I've talked about it enough. So we'll be going through that in a moment. Alright, if you're unfamiliar with the Stop the Shocks campaign or the campaign against the troubled teen industry, you're going to find all the pertinent links right there in the description box. Please in particular take note of the article written by Neuroclastic, a small non-for-profit started by autistics for autistics. In it, they interviewed over 800 ABA professionals in regards to the JRC's so-called behavior modification programs. The Judge Rotenberg Educational Center doesn't want you to read that article so much. They threatened Neuroclastic with a defamation lawsuit if they did not remove it from the website. Neuroclastic refused, so you know the drill. Please read the article. Share on all your social media. Also included is Neuroclastic's public statement in regards to the defamation lawsuit threat, as well as a link to their GoFundMe. We are crowdfunding just in case the JRC ever actually does see through with their threat. Trigger warning 1. When we discuss places like the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center, or Agape Boarding School, and other hellscape schools just like it. Gonna hear vivid descriptions of and catch shots of video surveillance footage of people with mental health issues and disabled people being tortured and abused. If you got young children present, please make sure to utilize the headphones. Trigger warning 2. This channel is marked not for kids for a reason. We use profanity on occasion and speak on dark subjects. If your child is 16 and younger and they are watching this, very obviously, parental supervision is advised. Number 3. We are now going to once again dive into the ever-deepening, horrifying, batshit insane rabbit hole that is the JRC that just gets worse with every single thing they try to say in their own defense, without them even realizing their defense of their insanity just makes it worse. Yeah. So, in that, trigger warning 5, allergies. I've been out for at least half the day. You know, so you're going to hear weird noises, alright? Alright. So, actually, hold on a second. Ew. Okay, where I want you to pay attention is right here, because they're going to start talking about the multiple medications. Before we get into it, if you all haven't figured out that JRC is one of the biggest pseudoscience peddling insane asylums, that these people are almost in a quasi-religious cult of horrific, violent stupidity, allow me to show you why that is. It is dangerous. Even if you are, for example, being taken off of Adderall, if it's not done by the letter, with a doctor overseeing you getting off of that particular type of medication, you don't want to know what those consequences can look like. And JRC brags with their full chest out that with their torture device, your kid won't need medication anymore. And look, they just drool and all that on the medication. I'm sorry, Karen, but if it's a decision between me drooling in a corner or me getting constantly shot full of electricity at just below the lethal limit, sign me up for drooling in the corner. You know, pretty sure anyone would say the same. These people play so fast and loose with their nonsense that if you're not either within this field or been surrounded by this field, you may read what they're saying and it might make some form of sense. Why do you think so many people out there in the real world, normal, intelligent people, accept the pseudoscience and go with it? Yeah. So, this particular part in that whole paragraph I read last night is what caught my eye here. Remember when I was mentioning the fact that immediately after diagnosis, they were already throwing that kid into early intervention before a full functional behavioral assessment had even been done to see if that particular therapy would be helpful to that particular kid? There's a little bit more to that. So I'm going to start here. So during that period, Dr. Childs prescribed multiple medications for LE, including Ritalin, Zoloft, lithium, clonidine, Depakote, olanzapine, Clozaril, Klonopin, Cogitin, and a PRN for Ativan. Sounds like a lot of medication, right? Here's the problem. The JRC is not telling you. It's not all of those medications that this child was being prescribed had to do with them being neurodivergent. Okay? Now, the ones I recognized right off the bat as medicines that I was formerly on that I no longer need, that would have been Ritalin, Zoloft, Adderall. Okay? Now, some of the drugs I don't recognize. I know lithium can be used in regard with mental health issues to acting as a calm agent. It's usually not something that's very highly recommended, especially these days where you've got more options for different mental health drugs. In fact, what I have come to understand since I've been on it, paroxetine, or the official name Paxil, these days is one of the most popular in regards to people who are autistic and adults, because a lot of that anxiety, some of it's autism, some of it's PTSD. What can I say? I have the trifecta diagnosis. Alright, so clonidine I've heard of. Decapote, some of these I'm not familiar with. But there are two of them that I am very familiar with. See, my dad had epilepsy. And my ex used to have a situation of where he would go into multiple grand mal seizures 5 minutes apart from one another, back to back to back. So, in particular, Klonopin and Ativan are usually drugs that are used to help manage folks who have epileptic seizures. Now, remember when they were talking about the kid drooling? I know for a fact that Ativan, when taken, helps lull them out of the seizures, bring them into a sleep. Brings them out of what's causing those issues. I don't know all the technical terms to it. I just know the point of why people use it. And I also know that those who use it, and it's usually used pretty quickly after the seizure has been subsided. You have to put it right underneath your tongue and let it dissolve. And that drug, and even Klonopin too, can cause drooling. And usually, after the Klonopin dissolves, it's a very strong sedative, as well as all the other things it helps take care of. So, when they are asleep, having taken Ativan, it does not surprise me whatsoever that there is drool. That is a part of the side effect for that particular epilepsy drug. Interesting, right? Because what were they telling you about that kid beforehand? Right? They were telling you that they drool, they hit, they convulse, urinary issues, tremors, headaches, and sedation. That entire list. I'm going to read it again. Overstimulation, drooling, urinary incontinence, tremors, headaches, sedation. All of that, literally all of that, is not coming from autism. It's coming from them being a child with epilepsy. Okay? All those symptoms we just read, all of that comes from epilepsy. Something that I became way more versed in than I ever wanted to. Okay? Overstimulation is something that does occur in folks who do have different forms of epilepsy, whether either right before they go into seizures or right after. It is very easy for them to get overstimulated by the environment, and sometimes, if you're not careful, could actually send them back into one. Okay? That's number one. Druid. A lot of the medications, not all, but some, that are used for folks who do have epilepsy to help at least get it somewhat under control, do cause, as a side effect, drooling. Now, if you've ever been around anyone that's had a grand mal seizure or even just your regular seizures, urinary incontinence is a part of the ball game, folks. I remember several times with my ex when I had to help bring him almost like awake but not awake into the bathroom. You have to wipe it down because the seizure affects the full body and it causes their bladder. You get the point. So, that was not some willful thing due to autism. It's called epilepsy. Tremors and headaches is again what happens when a person has epilepsy, particularly when they're coming out of a seizure. And sedation regards, like, how can you even throw that in as a symptom? The sedation is part of the medicine that helps control epilepsy, or at the very least try to minimize the damage that the seizures are causing. So them trying to say this child is so out of control and have to be on a shock device, when I can just look at this list right here, and every single thing that they're using to paint that this kid obviously needed to be on shock treatment informs me that the child had epilepsy. And in a matter of fact, it is extremely dangerous for a child who does have epilepsy to be put on something like the GED device. Shooting electricity through someone that already is susceptible to seizures, people can get killed. Particularly since we know that the JRC like to champion trying to lull people off of life-saving medications. It becomes even more alarming when I can look and see at least two of those medications are used to help minimize the damage of a seizure. And they're trying to use it as saying, obviously, we need to hook them onto electricity. You combine those two together. If someone hasn't died yet, it's only a matter of time, folks. People have no idea trying to shoot someone with that much of electricity. Could you imagine if the kid is in a grand mal seizure and some moron decides that it's not a seizure, it's a behavior, and they shot them multiple times on the highest voltage? It is sheer nightmare stuff, folks. Sheer nightmare stuff. And this is why it continues to shock me that no federal investigation has never been done into this place. I shouldn't, as a person who has kind of a narrow niche in this subject, I shouldn't be able to look at that and tear it into shreds. I shouldn't be able to look at that and say, epilepsy, 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 what the hell is wrong with you? Right? Because these are supposed to be professionals. That's what they throw in our face all the time, right? They're 11 professionals. Where the hell were those 11 experts and professionals when you were shocking a little child at just below the lethal limit who has epilepsy? Because I'd love to hear them defend themselves. I really would. I'm going to leave you with that tonight, folks. We're going to go ahead and close out. We don't get very many views on this channel. The few we do tend to get removed from time to time. Please don't forget to hit the like button, hit subscribe. Please don't forget to utilize the comments. I appreciate your time this evening. As always, folks, we here at Spilling Tea do hope you have a good one. I'll see you all tomorrow evening. I gotta... Just to let you know, Christmas has exploded inside my weight room back there, and I'm not going to be able to get to it because I spent more time at the dentist than I thought I would. I'm just kind of annoyed at myself. But bye, everyone.